He wanted scrap metal, but a green-skinned goddess shattered his heart. He was a biologist, not a hero, until he unlocked her cage. Dr. Reese Halden had spent most of his life in cold, sterile labs. His job was simple: study alien biology, record findings, and never ever get involved. He was known for his calm logic, his detached focus, and his unshakable professionalism. But all of that changed the moment he stepped into the hidden lab on the edge of Orion's rift. He hadn't even meant to be there. A navigation error brought his survey shuttle off course, and when he landed to recalibrate, he found something odd: an active life signature deep underground, hidden behind false geological readings. Curiosity pulled him in. The facility was dark, the air stale, the walls humming with forgotten energy. Reese moved cautiously, each step echoing in the silence. Inside, rows of containment pods lined the chamber. Most were empty. A few held the remains of failed experiments, creatures long dead, labeled and numbered. But one pod was different, still active, still glowing. And inside it, she stared back at him. She was stunning. Emerald green skin shimmered, faintly under the containment light, soft bioluminescent lines tracing her arms, collarbone, and hips. Her long dark hair clung to her shoulders. Her eyes, large, golden, and glowing, locked onto his with a mixture of fear and hope. She wasn't sedated, she wasn't unconscious, she was fully awake. Reese stepped closer, trying to read the alien script on her pod. Most of it was corrupted data, but one line translated clearly: Specimen 27, breeding potential unknown. His stomach turned. This wasn't research, this was slavery dressed up as science. She pressed her hand weakly against the glass, her lips moved, dry and cracked. He activated the audio interface. "Please," she whispered, her voice barely more than a breath. "Let me out." She wasn't just another subject, she was a sentient being, and someone had locked her in a cage like an animal. He hesitated, heart racing. This went against everything his contract allowed. Interference with a specimen could lead to criminal charges. But standing there, watching her trembling inside that glass cell, he couldn't walk away. "I'm going to open it," he said, more to himself than her. His fingers moved quickly across the panel, bypassing the lock system. The security code accepted his override. With a hiss of pressurized air, the pod opened. She collapsed into his arms. Her body was warm, soft, and far too light. She was malnourished, trembling, but still conscious. Her eyes met his again. "Sorry," she whispered. That was her name. Reese pulled off his jacket and wrapped it around her. She didn't resist. She clung to him with what little strength she had left, her slender fingers gripping the fabric like it was the only thing keeping her grounded. "We have to get you out of here," he murmured. Sirens suddenly echoed through the halls. The facility had detected the breach. Whoever ran this place, they knew someone had opened the pod. Carrying her, Reese ran. Back to his ship, back to the cockpit. Alarms still rang as they launched into the stars, but he didn't care. He set a course for the nearest unregistered system and activated stealth mode. Only once they were safely away from the facility did he stop to catch his breath. Sari lay curled on the floor of his ship, covered in a blanket now, her golden eyes never leaving his face. "Why did you save me?" she asked softly. He didn't have a good answer. "Because you looked at me like a person," he said at last. "Not a project." A long silence passed between them. "I thought all humans were like them," she said quietly. "I thought all aliens were science subjects," he admitted. She smiled. Just barely. But it was the most beautiful thing he'd ever seen. Reese checked her vitals, noting the unusual patterns in her biosignature. Her physiology was complex, part organic, part plant-like, and completely unique. As he studied the readings, something else became clear. Her body had started responding to his presence. Pheromonal shifts, energy fluctuations, hormonal changes. She wasn't just recovering, she was reacting to him. "I don't know what they were planning to do with you," he said. eyes still on the screen. But your biology, it's adapting to me, to humans. She nodded slowly. We connect through bond, emotion, not control. You touched me with care. That changed everything. He swallowed. Hard. Sorry. Are you saying... I'm saying, she interrupted softly, that I want to stay with you. And for the first time in his life, Rhys Halden felt something stir in his chest, stronger than curiosity, stronger than reason, something wild and powerful and completely new. Love. Rhys didn't sleep that night. Sari rested on the narrow, caught in his ship's medbay, breathing slowly, her glowing lines dim and calm now. But his mind refused to settle. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw hers, golden, trusting, and so terribly fragile. He kept watching her vitals on the monitor, not because he had to, but because he couldn't stop caring. He told himself this was still science, still part of his job. Study the subject, observe, record. But the moment she'd said, "I want to stay with you," something had shifted. She wasn't a subject. She was someone, and she'd chosen him. The next morning, she woke with color, returning to her skin, soft greens and pulses of blue trailing across her collarbones like a living tattoo. She sat up slowly, her long dark hair falling over her shoulders, and met his eyes. "I'm hungry," she said. Her voice was stronger now, less afraid, less broken. Rhys smiled. "That I can help with." He led her to the galley and gave her something light, protein broth and soft fruit from a storage pod. She sat cross-legged on the floor, eating with small, careful bites. Her tendrils, which he'd assumed were purely sensory, occasionally reached out and brushed against objects, or his leg. "You touch like a thalith," she said after a while. "I don't know what that means." "It means soft hands, gentle movements, no pain." She looked up at him. "We don't forget the first one who touches us kindly." His throat went dry. She reached out and took his hand, her fingers cool and smooth. Her bioluminescence flared faintly at the contact, spreading across her chest and arms in response to the warmth of his skin. "Are you doing that on purpose?" he asked, fascinated. She tilted her head. "No. You're making me bloom." What? "Human, warmth, emotion. It's strong. Your body triggers mine." She leaned in slightly, studying his face like a puzzle she was eager to solve. "That doesn't happen with others." Rhys chuckled nervously, trying to hide the heat in his cheeks. "Well, you're definitely the most beautiful scientific anomaly I've ever seen." She blinked slowly. "Was that a compliment?" "Yeah," he said. "Yeah, it was." Her eyes glowed a little brighter. "Then I give one too," she said. "You have a good face, honest, strong lines, and your scent is loud." He paused. "Loud? In a good way. You smell like courage and worry." He didn't know whether to laugh or hold her tighter. As the ship cruised toward a quiet moon far outside regulated space, they began talking more, really talking. She told him how the Thalith had once been healers and terraformers, connected deeply to nature and emotion, but their abilities made them valuable, dangerous. Some species saw them not as people, but tools. She'd been taken during what she called a harvest raid. That lab had held her for months. "Did they hurt you?" he asked quietly. "Not with blades. With cold, lights, no voice, no touch. Just glass." She ran her hand over the metal wall beside her. "Until you." Rhys looked away, guilt crawling up his spine. "I should have found you sooner." She reached for his hand again. "But you did. That's all that matters." That night, the ship entered orbit around a small green moon. It was quiet, unclaimed, and far from any known trade routes. Perfect for disappearing. Rhys brought the ship down gently, landing near a field of silver-leafed trees. The moment Sari stepped onto the soft grass, her entire body changed. She inhaled deeply and the light across her skin brightened, casting soft glows across the clearing. Her tendrils stretched toward the sky, and she closed her eyes, barefoot, in the moss. "This," she said softly, "feels like home." Reese watched her with something more than admiration. She didn't just walk through the world, she connected with it. And when she turned to him and smiled, it was like watching a star choose to shine for him. That night they made a small camp near the ship. She lay beside him, watching the stars through the open hatch. "Tell me about your world," she asked. He told her about Earth, about oceans, storms, laughter, music, even coffee. She listened with wonder, occasionally brushing his arm or shoulder as if trying to memorize him. And then she whispered, "I want to give you something." He turned to look at her. "What?" "My bond. Sorry. I know your kind. Bonds with rings or promises. We bond with touch and truth. If I give it, it can't be undone." He hesitated. His heart raced. "Are you sure?" She leaned in, her fingers tracing his cheek. "You freed me. You feed me. You see me. I'm more sure than anything." And then she kissed him, soft, slow, and filled with a depth of emotion that left his thoughts spinning. Her tendrils wrapped gently around his shoulders, and her entire body bloomed in radiant light. In that moment, Reese Halden wasn't just a scientist, he was hers. By morning, everything had changed. Quietly, completely, and without regret. Reese woke to the soft glow of Sari's body beside him, her skin still faintly luminescent from the night before. She lay curled against him like she belonged there. One leg draped lazily over his, a tendril coiled around his wrist like a sleeping vine that had chosen its tree. He didn't move. He barely breathed. He just watched her. Every part of her looked soft, calm, content. For someone who'd spent months in a cage, she didn't seem broken. She seemed reborn. Her golden eyes blinked open, and her gaze found him instantly. "You didn't run," she said, voice still husky from sleep. "Did you expect me to?" She smiled, slow and sly. "Some males do, after bond." Reese reached out and brushed a strand of dark hair from her cheek. "Not this one." She leaned in and kissed him again. Just a soft press of lips, but it stirred things in him that made his chest ache. Not with lust, with something deeper, something real. They spent that day together exploring the moon. It wasn't much, just a patch of green in the middle of galactic nowhere. But to them, it was Eden. Sari walked barefoot, laughing as her tendrils brushed against flowers, stones, trees. Every step she took made something bloom. Reese wasn't sure if it was her biology or just magic, but he didn't care either way. At one point, she touched a moss-covered boulder, and within seconds it cracked open like an egg, revealing a glowing blue fruit. She offered it to him without a word. He bit into it, and it tasted like everything he missed from Earth and didn't even realize. Sweet, warm, with a kick at the end. "You made this?" "I woke it," she corrected. "The world listens when I'm happy." He swallowed. "Then, we should keep you happy forever." Later, back on the ship, Reese ran more tests, not on her but with her permission. He wanted to understand what was happening between them, scientifically speaking. But every result left him more baffled. Her body chemistry had shifted again. Her hormone levels were rising. Her cells were producing strange hybrid markers. She leaned over his shoulder and looked at the screen. "You're thinking too hard." "That's because I think for a living." "Then stop thinking, feel." She turned his chair toward her and climbed into his lap without hesitation. He froze, her soft curves pressing against him, her glowing skin warm through the thin fabric of his shirt. "Sorry, your scent is stronger now," she whispered. "Your body wants me, so does mine." "I know," he said, "but I don't want to hurt you." She gave him a look that was half smile, half challenge. "You won't. I adapt." She kissed him again, deeper this time, and Reese stopped resisting. He'd saved her, yes, but now she was saving him too. From the cold, distant life he'd convinced himself was enough. Their second time together was different. The first had been full of wonder. This was fire. She responded to every touch with a hunger that startled him, wrapping her legs around his hips, gasping when his hands found the delicate markings on her thighs that pulsed like heartbeats. "You're bigger than any Thaleth," she whispered with awe. He blinked. "Is that a compliment?" Her smile turned wicked. "It's a challenge," and he rose to it. Their bodies moved together like pieces of a puzzle made eons ago. Soft against firm, glow against shadow. Her tendrils wrapped around his back, guiding him, holding him, claiming him. And when they reached the peak together, her entire body erupted in a wave of luminous color, like a sunrise breaking across a storm. She cried out something in her native tongue, words he didn't understand but felt deep in his bones. Afterward, they lay tangled in the sheets, skin to skin, breath to breath. His arm rested over her waist and her fingers traced idle patterns over his chest. "I feel different," she whispered. "Yeah," he breathed. "Me too." "No," she said. "Inside." She sat up slightly, placing her hand over her stomach. Her golden eyes widened. "What is it?" he asked, rising with her. Her face went pale, then flushed green with emotion. I think the bond took root." "What does that mean?" "It means," she whispered, voice trembling, "I might be carrying life." Reese stared at her, stunned. "Your species has never crossbred with another," she said. "But we're bonded. You're stronger than any I've touched. My body responds to you like you're Thaleth, even though you're not." "Wait," he sat up. "You're saying?" She nodded, her glowing fingers resting on her stomach. "I think I'm pregnant." And for the first time in his life, Dr. Reese Halden was speechless. His mind raced with questions. Genetic compatibility, evolutionary implications, technological, support for a hybrid birth. But none of it mattered. All that mattered was the quiet smile on Sari's lips, and the future they'd just created together. He reached out, took her hand, and held it to his chest. "I don't know how we're going to do this," he said. Her voice was soft and steady. "We'll grow." Reese sat in stunned silence, holding her glowing hand to his chest, his heart thudding like a drum. She might be pregnant. With his child. That thought echoed through him like a solar flare. He'd come to this moon looking for quiet data, a few biological samples, maybe some strange plants. Now he was holding the woman he'd risked everything for, and she was telling him they'd created life. Together. "You're sure?" he whispered, voice shaky. Sari gave him a soft nod. "The signs are clear. My bloom hasn't faded. My body hums. And..." She hesitated, her hand returning to her stomach. "My root bond flared during climax. That only happens when conception begins." Reese blinked. "Root bond?" She gave him a look somewhere between amused and reverent. "It's difficult to explain. Our bodies don't just carry life. We connect with it. I can already feel it starting. Deep, like a song under soil." He was quiet for a long moment, then said the only thing that came to mind. "Damn." Sari laughed, full, bright, and completely unguarded. "That's your reaction?" He ran a hand through his hair, still staring at her in awe. "No offense, but this isn't exactly covered in any of my biology textbooks." Her smile softened and she leaned into him, her head resting on his shoulder. "It's new. For both of us." A silence settled between them. Not awkward, but heavy with meaning. Outside the viewport, the stars glittered above the silver trees of the moon as if the galaxy itself was eavesdropping. Reese turned to face her. "What does this mean for you?" "For us?" "It means," she said slowly, tracing a glowing fingertip across his chest, that we're more than mates now. We're entwined. Life between species doesn't begin by accident. It begins with resonance, emotion, purpose. So, this is rare? She gave him a look. It's impossible, until you. Reese was still wrapping his head around it when the ship's scanner pinged softly. He glanced over and froze. There's a structure, he said, pointing at the screen. 2 kilometers east, buried under the tree canopy. Sari stood beside him, her skin already glowing brighter in response. It's Thalith. I can feel it. Something old. Something... waiting. Waiting for what? She met his eyes. For us. They dressed quickly, Reese in his light armor, Sari in a simple tunic that clung to her form like silk woven from moonlight. She insisted on walking barefoot, feeling the ground, her tendrils brushing the trees as they made their way through the forest. After a short hike, they reached a wide clearing covered in silver-green vines. At the center was a low dome, smooth as stone, half buried in moss. Sari stepped forward and placed her hand on the surface. The ground pulsed. The vines shifted, curling back like they'd been asleep for centuries. A hidden door hissed open, and soft green light spilled out. Reese followed her in. Inside, the air was warm and rich with scent. Earth, pollen, something floral and strangely comforting. The walls were made of a crystalline lattice glowing faintly in rhythmic pulses. At the center sat a pillar covered in symbols, its surface shifting like it was alive. Sari gasped. It's a cradle. A what? A birthing vault, she explained, stepping slowly toward the pillar. Used during our golden age, when we lived in harmony with worlds, not in cages. Her voice wavered. My people, we thought they were gone, all of them. Reese approached the console. Alien glyphs danced across the interface, but the moment he touched it, they shifted and began translating into English. He stared. It's adapting to me. Sari's breath caught. You're bonded to Thaleth life now. Our child is part of you. The system recognizes your imprint. Panel slid open behind the pillar, revealing what looked like a chamber, lined with the same glowing crystal but organic, like the inside of a living cocoon. Is that? Yes, Sari said, walking beside him. It's for hybrid gestation, safe development, enhanced growth. Reese raised an eyebrow. Is that your way of saying I just found us an alien? Nursery? She grinned. A sacred one. The air pulsed softly around them. Reese felt a strange warmth in his chest, not from the tech, but from Sari. She was glowing brighter now, skin flushed, tendrils trailing behind her like petals on the wind. He reached for her hand. You okay? I've never felt more alive. She placed his palm gently against her stomach. Our bond, it's awakening the vault. It knows what's coming. Reese's voice was low. Then we're not just 2 lovers running from a lab. No, she said, pressing her forehead to his. We're the beginning of something new. And there, in the heart of ancient alien tech, surrounded by the hum of a lost civilization, they kissed again. Not out of passion this time, but out of promise. The world was changing, and they were going to raise something in it that had never existed before. Together. That night, they didn't return to the ship. They stayed in the vault, wrapped in soft biofiber sheets grown from the walls themselves. The chamber responded to them, adjusting temperature, scent, even sound. It was like sleeping inside a heartbeat. The gentle rhythm of the crystalline walls pulsed in time with Sari's body, her pregnancy now undeniable. Her glow had deepened to a richer green, and her markings began to shift with a pattern that Reese had never seen before. Something beautiful, something alive. He sat beside her, studying the patterns gently undulating across her belly. It's like your skin's singing, he murmured in awe. She smiled lazily and reached for his hand. It is. My body sings to the child, teaches it peace, calm, Love. Reese couldn't help but marvel at it. How every part of her was made for nurturing, for growth, for connection. And yet she'd been locked in a cage, reduced to a number. They tried to turn you into a product, he said quietly, brushing her hair behind her ear. But you're life itself. She turned toward him, eyes glowing. And you, Reese Halden, gave it back to me. Then softer. I want to give you something too. He blinked. You already gave me everything. She grinned and rolled onto him, slow and deliberate, her body warm and pliant as a summer breeze. No, she whispered, her face inches from his. Now I give you the bond, fully. He swallowed. What we had before wasn't only the beginning. Her voice was like velvet soaked in honey. Now you're mine. I'm yours. Mind to mind, skin to skin, soul to soil. He barely managed to breathe before she kissed him. This time, it wasn't about heat. It was about depth. Sari moved like moonlight, graceful, deliberate, with every motion echoing intimacy, not just desire. As their bodies joined again, the chamber responded. Light bloomed across the ceiling. The floor pulsed with gentle energy. The walls glowed with shifting colors like the inside of a nebula. Her tendrils wrapped around his wrists, not to restrain him, but to guide him, to connect. He could feel her emotions flowing into him like warmth poured through skin. And impossibly, he felt her feel his back. Fear. Wonder. Need. She whispered his name between breaths, not as a label, but as a promise. When the bond peaked, when their bodies finally collapsed into a tangle of limbs, sweat, and glow, Reese felt something he couldn't explain, a pulse in the back of his mind, as if a second heartbeat had joined his own. And then, silence, not empty, full, whole. Later, lying against his chest, Sari stroked his jaw with her fingertips. You feel it now, don't you? He nodded. You're in my head, and you in mine. Feels calm. She chuckled. That's love, alien version. Their peace didn't last long. At dawn, the vault systems woke them, not with alarms, but with light. A pattern of glyphs lit the wall near their resting place. Reese sat up, rubbing sleep from his eyes. That looks new. Sari was already on her feet, glowing, one hand cradling her lower belly. She moved toward the glyphs like she was being called. The vault's giving us something, she said softly. Knowledge. The crystal responded to her touch, and a 3D hologram unfurled. A map of stars, planets, and strange sigils Reese couldn't read. Sari's eyes widened. These are the other vaults. There are more? Yes, scattered across forgotten worlds. Each one holds pieces of Thalath life, seeds, DNA, technology, maybe even others like me. Reese stepped beside her. If these vaults are still active, maybe we could rebuild your people. She turned, smiling, eyes wet with something deeper than joy. Not my people. Ours. Her hand found his. We're building something new now. A family, a future. But the moment hung heavy with danger, because if those vaults still existed, others would be looking for them too. The same kind of people who locked Sari in a glass tube and labeled her breeding stock. Reese's jaw tightened. Then we don't just protect this vault, we find the others first. She nodded, proud. We grow. They packed quickly, took samples from the cradle. Sari, ever attuned to nature, coaxed the vines to gift them new fruits and biofiber wraps for the baby's early development. The vault offered them something else too. A seed, glowing, humming softly. It pulsed with an energy Reese couldn't quite place. Sari cradled it. It's a living core. If we find another dead world, this can wake it. They returned to the ship. Reese ran system checks. Sari planted the seed in a nutrient pod and sang to it softly, her voice echoing in the cockpit like wind through glass. Before takeoff, she turned to him, a mischievous smile curving her lips. Just so you know, she said, slipping into his lap and straddling him again. Bonded males are very fertile. Reese's eyes widened. Wait, more fertile? She leaned down, whispering against his lips. Your body wants to give me everything, and I want all of it. He kissed her hard, one hand on her glowing waist. The engine hums rose around them. The stars awaited, and together, scientist and seed-bearer, human and alien, they launched into the unknown, ready to grow life in the coldest corners of the galaxy. This time, not just for survival, but for love. The ship cut through the void like a quiet promise. Reese sat at the helm, his hand resting lightly on Sari's thigh as she slept beside him, curled into the co-pilot's chair, belly softly rising and falling. The glow from her skin had deepened over the past few days, no longer just a reflection of her emotions, but something more primal, instinctual. She was changing, evolving. He checked the scans again. The next vault was close, buried deep beneath the surface of a dry, rust-colored planet that looked like nothing could survive on it. But the readings didn't lie. There was life beneath the dust, dormant, waiting, just like the last one. Sari stirred beside him, eyes blinking open, golden and warm. We're here, she asked, stretching slowly, her back arching like a cat's. The motion pulled her tunic tight across her stomach. Reese stared. You're glowing again, he said, voice low. I'm always glowing now, she murmured with a smile, leaning into his shoulder. Blame your DNA, it's overactive. You make it sound like a condition. It is, she teased. You're dangerously attractive and fertile. Reese kissed her temple. Good. We've got galaxies to populate. Ree laughed, soft and musical, but her tone turned serious as she studied the planet below. This one feels different. Dangerous different, or exciting different. She tilted her head, sensing something beyond what sensors could detect. Both. They landed just before local twilight. The air outside was thin but breathable. The ground crunched beneath their boots like sun-baked clay. Sari walked ahead, her bare feet never faltering, tendrils trailing lightly behind her like a living veil. Her presence seemed to wake the planet. Tiny spores rose in her wake. Flowers bloomed for a moment, then vanished again. This world remembers my kind, she whispered. Reese scanned the area. The vault's 2 clicks west under that ridge. They walked together in silence. Reese carried the glowing seed from the first vault, now pulsing with gentle rhythm in his satchel. Sari's hand found his as they walked, her fingers interlacing with his like roots finding purchase in rich soil. The vault entrance was buried beneath cracked stone, half concealed by sandstorms and time. But Sari didn't need a scanner. She placed her hand on the ground, closed her eyes and sang, not in words, but in deep, resonant tones that echoed off the rocks. The ground opened. The stone pulled away like it was exhaling. A circular staircase spiraled downward, lined with that same glowing crystal architecture. Reese followed her down, flashlight off. He didn't need it. Her glow was enough. Inside, this vault was different. Older, faded, dying. The air was thin and dry. The light was weak. The walls flickered with slow pulses like a heartbeat struggling to continue. It's fading, Sari said softly, crouching beside a cracked pod. There was life here, children of the seed, but no more. Reese ran a scanner over the chamber. This whole system's collapsed. Something shut it down. Sari reached toward the core node, placing her palm against its cracked surface. Then she cried out, staggering backward, clutching her stomach. Reese caught her instantly, lowering her to the floor. What is it? What happened? Her eyes were wide. There were others here, hybrids, like what we're creating. But something hunted them, destroyed them. Reese froze. Something new about the vaults? She nodded, her skin flickering with distress. It wasn't nature, it was fear. Someone came here to stop the future from growing. Reese stood, scanning the vault for residual traces. He didn't like what he found. Energy signatures, weapons grade, plasma residue, faint, but human. We weren't the first to find this place. They sat in silence for a long moment. Then Sari looked up, her voice firmer than he'd ever heard it. "Then we make this one live again." He frowned. "Sari, no," she interrupted. "They killed what was meant to bloom here. I won't let them win. Not again." She pulled the glowing seed from his satchel and walked to the center of the room. Then, naked and radiant, she pressed it into the soil. Reese watched as the glow spread out from the contact point, first faint, then pulsing stronger and stronger. The walls responded. The crystal patterns reignited. The dead systems rebooted, slowly but surely. Sari dropped to her knees, her hands buried in the dirt, tendrils pulsing with life as she fed the vault energy. Not physical strength, emotional, empathic, maternal. "Grow with me," she whispered. The vault answered. Reese ran to her, wrapping his arms around her from behind, anchoring her as her body trembled with effort. "You're not doing this alone," he murmured against her neck. With his touch, the energy surged. Their bond, the one that connected them in flesh and feeling, ignited something ancient in the vault's heart. The floor vibrated. The walls shuddered. And then, bloom. The vault came alive, fully this time. Flowers sprouted across the crystalline walls. Vines twisted upward from the floor. Glowing spores filled the air like stars. Pods opened and fresh air flowed. Sari collapsed into his arms, exhausted but smiling. "We brought it back," she said, voice barely above a whisper. Reese kissed her forehead. "We brought hope back." She looked up at him, tears in her golden eyes. "We're more than just mates now. We're guardians." He helped her stand, cradling her gently, his palm resting against her belly. A second pulse beat there, and somewhere deep within the vault, a second seed began to glow. New life, a second chance, for all of them. Weeks passed. The once dead vault bloomed with life. Under Sari's guidance and Reese's technical finesse, the ancient systems now hummed with steady purpose. Oxygen levels normalized. The crystal networks synced across planetary nodes. Vines crept gently along the walls, bearing glowing fruit. The scent of living earth filled the air. Sari moved through it all like a queen in her garden, barefoot, radiant, heavy with child. Her pregnancy was, progressing fast, faster than any human timeline could explain. But it wasn't unnatural. It was right. Like the child inside her was in tune with something ancient and vast. "This planet is becoming a sanctuary," she said one evening as they lay together in their quarters. A chamber the vault had shaped for them out of living crystal and warm moss. "Not just for us, for others." Reese nodded, cradling her from behind, her rounded belly warm beneath his palm. "If we don't protect places like this, no one will." He pressed his lips to her shoulder. She sighed, soft and content. "You still smell like starlight," he whispered. "And you still taste like trouble," she teased, smiling against his arm. But her eyes were serious when she looked up. "When this child is born, everything changes. It already has." She sat up slowly, glowing in the moonlight filtering through the vault's crystal dome. "You don't understand. This isn't just a child. It's a key." Reese blinked. "To what?" "To the future." Her hand moved over, her belly with reverence. "Thalith were never meant to stay in hiding. We were made to grow the galaxy, to guide it. But alone we stagnated, afraid. Your species. You burn. You risk. You love like wildfire. You're what we were missing." Reese sat up too, gently touching her face. "And you're what we were missing." They kissed again, soft, slow, full of everything unsaid. And just like that, her body tensed, She gasped, then laughed. "Oh, it's time." Reese blinked. "Now?" "I told you human males were dangerously fertile." The vault responded instantly. Lights shifted, medical systems activated. The room reshaped itself, forming a cradle of warm, flexible crystal around her. Sari sank into it, surrounded by a living structure attuned to every breath, every pulse. Reese held her hand. "I'm here." "You always are," she whispered. And then, guided by instinct and bond, she brought their child into the world. It was unlike any human birth Reese had ever seen. Silent, glowing, full of pulses of light and bursts of gentle pheromones. The vault wrapped them in warmth, amplifying every emotion. He felt everything she did: pain, joy, release, awe, as if they shared the same body, the same heartbeat, and when it was done, a soft cry echoed in the chamber. Reese stared. Their child was small, perfect, glowing faintly, skin a pale greenish gold, fingers like his, eyes like hers, golden and wide, swirling with light. Sari cradled the newborn gently, tears running down her cheeks. "He's beautiful." Reese leaned in close, heart hammering. "He's ours." The moment their child opened his eyes, the vault responded. Crystals flared, systems ignited. A map, massive and three-dimensional, appeared above them. It showed every vault, every hidden cradle across the galaxy, active, sinking, waiting. The baby cooed, and every vault answered. Sari gasped. "He's not just a child. He's a signal," Reese whispered, stunned. "He's awakening all of it." Their child, born of a human's reckless love and an alien's sacred bond, was the living bridge between species, a message to the stars. It's time to grow again. Weeks turned to months. They named him Leoren, a Thalath word meaning hope that grows. Other couples, other refugees began to arrive. Those who'd once hidden their interspecies love now drawn by the pulse of the awakened network. And Reese and Sari welcomed them all. The moon became a colony, then a sanctuary, then a movement. Reese still called himself a scientist, but now his field of study was family, growth, trust, future. Sari became more than a healer. She became a symbol, a myth made flesh. One night, as they watched the stars together on the grass outside the vault, Leoren sleeping in Sari's arms, faintly glowing like his mother, Reese whispered, "You remember what I told you the first night I saw you? That I wasn't just a subject?" He smiled. "No." I said, "Damn." She laughed. "And now?" she asked. He kissed her, slow and full. "Now I say, thank you for choosing me." She leaned her head against his shoulder. "No," she whispered, gazing at their child. "Thank you for setting me free." And above them, the stars shimmered with the light of a galaxy slowly blooming back to life, because two hearts from different worlds dared to touch and never let go. The end.